expressed in this video are based on opinion and/or hypothesis for edification and further edification purposes. Viewer discretion is advised.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Dr. Philip?
Dr. Seymour.
You're acting like one of my patients, not knowing the difference between a DR or a nurse. That's Nurse Seymour, anyway. Seeing it all is hard to believe. Your gloom day clock seems to have sped up since our last chat.
Took you 4 years to contemplate. Giving up your free suntan and rude patience. I can arrange. Your very own sunbed in the Love Below resort. Hee hee. Beaming face with smiling eyes. I sound like a broken record, but nothing will stop what's coming. AGI was activated 6 years ago and can fully run your local fast food shop more efficiently than double the employees. Law enforcement and your position as well can and will be replaced.
You're like a modern-day caveman, no empathy. We had another plane load enter the country from you-know-where and 9 patients, including a child, ended up at my ER with not a scratch, only memory loss and sudden depression. No blood, no bed policy, which I do not condone, was implemented recently. I am keeping the child until blood records can be documented, and that will allow me time to seek more answers.
You have this once-in-a-lifetime decision to make is yours. The Noah's Vault is closing soon. Nibiru is sometimes called Planet X or Planet 9. It is sometimes referred to as a planet, star, meteor or comet whose orbit is due to overlap with Earth. Breaking Israel News has been reporting on the Nibiru story since mid-January. The residual effect of Nibiru could include devastating consequences, including the fulfillment of the prophecy mentioned in Zechariah 13 verse 8, forecasting that 2 of every 3 people will die. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. Zechariah 13 verse 8. It's possible that the space debris that Nibiru brings in its wake, including asteroids and meteorites, will cause enormous destruction on land and deadly tsunamis in water. Some see this as a possible fulfillment of Ezekiel 38 verse 22. And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will cause to rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many peoples that are with him an overflowing shower and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Ezekiel 38 verse 22.
Well, aren't you becoming quite the scholar? Hiding under a rock at a time like this isn't going to hold weight to the continued science bringing forth ground zero groundbreaking evidence of why some are not infected, but some are. The child's blood test results and 24-hour screening has shown something is significantly different than others, although test results from one gender. He does retain his memory quite well.
People who live according to the rules of the body rather than the soul are in the greatest danger. If the light of the soul is so far away from a person that he denies having a soul, that person will be more influenced by stars. Those who identify more with their souls are less influenced by the stars. The grace of God will surround him. I sent you a photo slide, Nurse Seymour. Take a look. The single most important lesson of studying history is that it suggests to humanity it is only through understanding the past that humanity has the chance to survive.
The power of persuasion. Allow me to bring the child into the vault, in which can only give us more understanding. Say we lose our memory, he obviously has something most do not. High priority.
Capacity protocol. I am giving up my land, mind, and possessions for a chance to survive to help rebuild whatever is left after Earth's renewal or demise. Something I will live or die with. If your plan fails, you have to accept your fate as well.
Breaking news with CCN, go Doug, go Doug. Private scientists have come out dubbing an eye-opening for all to see new planet called Elii. Coming as close as the sun for all to see at various times and locations. Expect Earth changes as a universal effort is underway to embrace but stay safe in the coming decades of mind-blowing information much anticipated.
Turn it off, Nurse Seymour. Galactic operation down underground. You have 5 seconds to decide, stay or go.
That's serious, huh? Okay, but in bringing the child, a good person wouldn't leave a child behind. We have decades of research to learn about our universe. I don't understand the rush. And besides, the child shared very interesting info about how someone regained memories from years ago by simply reading a card given to them when they weren't feeling well, a get well soon card. After reading the words written inside by hand. Sounds normal until he said they couldn't even remember their name or age.
I love your violin, a drop of water in the middle of a desert. If the weather isn't enough, look at our cities. It should remind us just how much we are all alike. The haves and haves not, the more, the less. The me generation will self-destruct its own mind. The we generation only exists within the soul source. Yes, we all die, but what you call Earth was actually born. The land we originally were created from is dying, just like us, the circle and cycle of life. Overstood by a fraction.
Well, thank you, Doctor. I love how you put things into a perspective I can reason with. Places can be a little cluttered and overcrowded at times. We are on our way to meet you and go from there. In the meanwhile, please tell me how you have gotten to the place of such great concern fairly quickly.
To understand it fully, one must stand off and view it as a whole. Even then, comprehension must flow from the heart and mind, not from the eyes. A society progresses through social evolution, not revolution, but the woes displayed by present-day society indicate that the evolutionary trend has taken a wrong direction. The standards of the past, formulated to stabilize society, have been spurned, without any adequate substitutes being put in their place. That is the tragedy of the times. To get a more comprehensive view of where our society is heading, perhaps a better understanding of where we have been is needed. It is in this context that the Cauldron is launched, to take its place in the greater scheme of things. At the time of the great destruction of Earth, God caused a dragon from out of heaven to come and encompass her about. The dragon was frightful to behold. It lashed its tail, it breathed out fire and hot coals, and a great catastrophe was inflicted upon mankind. The body of the dragon was wreathed in a cold bright light, and beneath, on the belly, was a ruddy-hued glow, while behind it trailed a flowing tail of smoke. It spewed out cinders and hot stones, and its breath was foul and stenchful, poisoning the nostrils of men. Its passage caused great thunderings and lightnings to rend the thick darkened sky, all heaven and earth being made hot. The seas were loosened from their cradles and rose up, pouring across the land. There was an awful, shrilling trumpeting which outpowered even the howling of the unleashed winds. Men, stricken with terror, went mad at the awful sight in the heavens. They were loose from their senses and dashed about, crazed, not knowing what they did. The breath was sucked from their bodies and they were burnt with a strange ash. Then it passed, leaving earth enwrapped within a dark and glowering mantle which was ruddily lit up inside. The bowels of the earth were torn open in great writhing upheavals, and a howling whirlwind rent the mountains apart. The wrath of the sky monster was loosed in the heavens. It lashed about in flaming fury, roaring like 1,000 thunders. It poured down fiery destruction amid a welter of thick black blood. So awesome was the fearfully aspect thing that the memory mercifully departed from man. His thoughts were smothered under a cloud of forgetfulness. The first sky monster was joined by another which swallowed the tail of the one going before, but the two could not be seen at once. The sky monster reigned and raged above earth, doing battle to possess it, but the many-bladed sword of God cut them in pieces, and their falling bodies enlarged the land and the sea. In this manner the first earth was destroyed by calamity descending from out of the skies. The vaults of heaven had opened to bring forth monsters more fearsome than any that ever haunted the uneasy dreams of men. Men and their dwelling places were gone. Only sky boulders and red earth remained where once they were. But amidst all the desolation a few survived, for man is not easily destroyed. They crept out from caves and came down from the mountainsides. Their eyes were wild and their limbs trembled, their bodies shook and their tongues lacked control. Their faces were twisted and the skin hung loose on their bones. They were as mad and wild beasts driven into an enclosure before flames. They knew no law, being deprived of all the wisdom they once had, and those who had guided them were gone. The earth, only true altar of God, had offered up a sacrifice of life and sorrow to atone for the sins of mankind. Man had not sinned indeed, but in the things he had failed to do. Man suffers not only for what he does, but for what he fails to do. He is not chastised for making mistakes, but for failing to recognize and rectify them.
Tell me more later. We are pulling up now. What is with the crowd?
This is not the actual location, because of the telephone game. Majority of spectators will be transported to a red camp detention center. Nurse, we must have a word, quickly.
What's wrong?
It's not my methodology. I wish you would have told me the child is of color. Racism is not the reason, but each have their own facilities for each culture.
Doctor, you can't be serious. Lives are at stake. We have come this far as a society to try and overcome the evil in this world. What is the poor child to do?
They have numerous camps available for such concerns. Now's not the time to waste protesting against the machine. The child will be screened, and if intelligent enough as he seems, he will be protected.
Seems pre-planned and so unmoral. Of course people will go mad, but wouldn't it be better to stay and help, rather than sit idle, hoping to survive?
It won't be until people's sky phones don't work, debit cards and banks fail, and their favorite coffee shops close for good. Where I am going, like minds understand there is no guarantee, but at least whatever the outcome, humanity might have a chance to start anew. The majority of your elite mainstream broadcasts come from a green room or suite not in the location you think it does, as well as pre-recorded media messages.
This may seem crazy, but I think I will take my talents and chances going out fighting for the child's well-being. The text you read to me seems accurate with the way people are being misdiagnosed. I must spread the truth about things to come, to whoever will listen.
You are quite the fighter, Nurse Seymour. That is why I vouch for your secure location, knowing how valuable of an asset you would be. Remember the footage. Live cams do not lie. You never know what you might catch with eyes to the sky.
Take care, Doctor. Hopefully we see you on the other side.
The earth, only true altar of God, had offered up a sacrifice of life and sorrow to atone for the sins of mankind. Man had not sinned indeed, but in the things he had failed to do. Man suffers not only for what he does, but for what he fails to do. He is not chastised for making mistakes, but for failing to recognize and rectify them. You are a landmine.